Back on MorningLine, thanks for joining us this morning, talking about the transportainment industry downtown. Many of these vehicles, you've probably seen them, tractors, wagons, hot tubs on wheels, you know, the pedal taverns. With us is Jim Schmitz. He's a downtown resident, part of Safe Fun Nashville, and an advocate for maybe placing some limits on this. And Jim and I were talking earlier about how, you know, there's some license requests going before the licensing commission this afternoon, 32 new pedal tavern requests. And the request there is to have them denied by many folks because there's too many already out there in the roads. Jim, by the way, have you seen now, you know, they're looking for new places to go. There's a pedal tavern on the Cumberland River now?
Yes, I did see that. Okay. I saw that the other day as I was walking over a bridge. That was unique.
I don't know who regulates that, but yeah, they're going to find a place to go one way or the other. We've got some more calls. Let's take this one from Joe. Joe, good morning. Hi, Joe. Are you there, Joe? Okay, he stepped away for a second. We'll come back to Joe. I don't want to lose him since he waited through the break. We'll go to Charles. Charles, good morning. Hi, Charles.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. What's on your mind?
A safety issue.
Okay.
Now, they won't let me ride anybody in the back of my pickup truck unless they're seated and secured. I think there's a law about riding in an open-air vehicle without being seated and restrained. And that's if y'all know the law, well, I'd like to hear it. Thank you. That's my question.
Thank you. Thank you for your call. Now, I don't know. I'm not schooled on the law specifically. You may not either, Jim. But, I mean, he makes kind of a point. I don't know if it has to do with speed. Most of these vehicles, right? Like, I've seen the tractors with the big rig behind it and some of these wagons and such. And even the horse-drawn carriages, do they count in this mix for you as well?
I mean, I don't know who they're administered by, so I honestly don't know. I mean, the bigger concern are the ones. I don't think we have people, you know, drunk falling off of those. I think they're by their design. It's not as much of an issue, but it might be.
Yeah, I didn't know, but the law, obviously, if there was some blatant violation of the law, I think that would have been brought up by Metro Police as they saw this. But I think the indication with these different vehicles is that they move, for the most part. Do you have some that go by where you live, Jim, where you live right now? I mean, will you hear them at night?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay, so it's busy, and is it to the point where it's beyond just Friday and Saturday nights?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. And I joke that I think they might have their music on a loop. Yeah. Because if I hear Shania Twain, I feel like a woman one more time. Yeah.
All right, let's be clear then. When you first moved into the downtown area about 6 years ago, this was maybe just beginning. It certainly was not what you bargained for at this point, but you definitely think it's grown to that point. But you've said that you're not philosophically against these things. It's just there's too many of them now.
Yeah, I don't even say that it's an issue that there's too many. It's an issue that, you know, I don't want us to stomp the golden goose. And the golden goose is the amount of tax dollars that come into the state and Metro through sales tax.
Right.
And that is put in, and that saves the rest of us from having to pay for it out of our pockets. And if there continue to be incidents like the one we had a couple of weeks ago, and those get traction on social media and the media in general, that puts all of that in jeopardy in my mind. And I don't want to see that happen. I think it would be bad for Nashvillians in general, and frankly, even for Tennesseans, because the state actually gets the bigger proportion of the sales tax. And when I talk about sales tax, it's not just what's coming off of the vehicles. I'm talking about all of the hotels and restaurants and bars here in town, and plus the people that they employ and all of that. Frankly, all of them are put in jeopardy if we don't have, if this does not remain a safe place for people to come and enjoy themselves.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. I mean, they're all businesses down there, but it seems like what's happening is now jeopardizing the store businesses, the businesses that are there on 2nd and Broad, you know, in the buildings, and the access and these folks coming past. I'm sure some of the owners of those businesses would like to see some limits. Let's go back to Joe now and see if we've got him on the horn. Joe, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, good morning. What's your thought, Joe?
I was just listening to what your discussion has been.
Sure.
And I've lived in Nashville all my life, but I made a mistake about it's been longer than that. It's before the COVID, of coming down a Lower Broad one evening, and between the people, the crosswalks down there are X'd to where people cross the street. Besides that, and these pedal wagons, it was a nightmare. It took me forever to get from 8th Avenue down to 1st Avenue. So I don't know what the answer is, but it's these people. Most of them are drinking and having a good time, I guess, what they call a good time.
Yeah.
But it's dangerous, and if they're going to keep this up, they might as well shut off Lower Broad from 8th Avenue to 1st Avenue and cut out all traffic other than peddler cars and people walking across the street. Because if you go, I don't even go downtown.
Yeah.
I haven't been downtown since.
Right.
You can't get anywhere.
Yeah, well, the idea is to live down there the way you do, Jim. But I mean, and I think Dan touched on this, and I hear what his complaints are about traffic and gridlock. But you would agree, though, I guess, that it's not fair to just obviously place this all on pedal taverns. I mean, the traffic congestion and all that's made worse by so many of them. But let's face it, there are an awful lot of factors beyond just them, I mean, that are causing problems downtown.
Absolutely, and that needs to be looked at and is being looked at, I think, in a more holistic way, because you have delivery trucks that are bringing in. I mean, essentially, in these bars downtown, there really isn't much inventory space to speak of. So the only way they can be resupplied is sometimes it's during the day. You've got issues with garbage trucks that have to be able to get in to remove. And get the dumpsters taken care of. I mean, there are a host of transportation issues downtown. There's no necessarily set place for ride shares to in and out, and they're stopping, dropping people off and picking people up, and so the traffic issue downtown is not solely driven by, or not driven, I guess, as the case may be, by these transportainment vehicles. That's not. But the safety issue is. If I go back for that just a second,
sure.
I've said for a long time, there are a lot of people who have some complaints about the us being the capital of bachelorette parties. Mm-hmm. To me, they're a canary in the coal mine. They are a if young single women feel safe to come to our downtown by themselves to have a full-blown party as a group. That says something about the safety they feel here to be able to walk our streets, to be able to do those kinds of things. When they don't feel safe is when they stop coming, and we need to keep our finger on that pulse. And if we have some of them fall off some of these vehicles or are injured on those, that's another place that puts us at risk, and I don't want that to happen.
Excellent point. Let's go next to Taylor. Taylor, good morning. Hi, Taylor.
Good morning, Nick. Good morning to your guest. Glad to hear his conversation this morning.
Sure.
I don't spend a lot of time downtown, and but my thoughts have grown on this subject to the point where it looked like fun for a few vehicles at one time, but now it's almost grown into a sheer clown show that ought to be kind of embarrassing to the city when you've got a tractor downtown pulling a trailer loaded with people partying, and the noise factor is really out of hand with these groups. And I'm not suggesting everything be barred, but there needs to be some program that keeps this more under control than what it currently is. And not only for the tourists, but also business visitors to downtown that might be thinking about locating a headquarters or something downtown. They may have a clientele or an employee type group that would think, I don't want to work day by day in a clown show like this. So let's, instead of Nashville, let's go to Williamson County or somewhere else to put this. The state will let the taxi commission or someone else handle this, but then that becomes a problem on who gets the medallion or who gets the license permission to do this. Does it just go to the most wealthy and politically influential person that's applying versus someone else? But I think a certain number needs to be a limit on it, and so that's my only part. I don't want us to become a nationwide reputation of riding on a pedal wagon, and because you're not going to get many $300 a night hotel guests that wants to pedal on a cart. So that's my point.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, Taylor. You know, I don't know, when we were talking about the scooters earlier, I mean, there's ways you can set up the licensing to set it up. I think you mentioned when they went back and looked at limiting the scooters, they ended up settling on 3 different providers. And there may have been more, and I'm guessing they did so on a certain criteria. They could do the same thing with regard to criteria if they wanted to place limits on how many different kind of pedal-type taverns could be out there, don't you think?
Yes. Yeah, I think all those things are out there, and I think what the caller brings up is a great point. And what we're talking about here is just people to get together and use something that seems to be in short supply these days, and that's common sense. We're talking about trying to approach this from a common sense standpoint. You know, don't come in here with a hammer and hammer everything down, but let's just be smart about it and take all of the various issues and positions in that into account, and craft a way to make this as beneficial to the greater good of Nashville.
Let's take one more call here before we go to our final break. Let's go to Tom. Tom, good morning. Hi, Tom.
Good morning, Nick. How are you doing?
Good. What's on your mind?
Well, I've been sitting here listening to this. What happened to the open container law, the public intoxication law that's in the city? That's in the public. What happened there? I just don't understand that.
Okay, and you know, again, obviously they're drinking on these vehicles. Of course, they're not driving, which is great. But there are open container laws. I mean, I'm guessing I can't walk down Broadway with a bottle of Jack Daniels and drinking it while I'm walking down the road just out in the open like that. Maybe I can. I don't think you can. But you can do that if you're in the back of one of these party boats with the top cut off. And I guess, do you have any idea how this works? And by the way, we should say most of these vehicles that you get on, you have to bring your own alcohol with you. They don't provide it. Any thoughts on that?
You know, it's a great thought. I don't know the laws on that. I mean, my understanding. I mean, I don't think you can drive around in your car with an open container, right. and I know you can't. You know, they don't allow. There was a big discussion about allowing people to walk around on Broadway with drinks, and that was, as I recall, was defeated. for people to not be able to do that. There were concerns. People kept pointing to Bourbon Street as an example.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I don't know if you can ride around the back of a pickup truck and drink.
Right. I don't think you can, but obviously there is an exception to the rule for these vehicles, or it wouldn't be happening, because that's blatantly obvious what they're doing. No one's hiding it, and if there was a problem, they would have been stopped and cited. So I'm sure it's allowed. So yeah, an exception to the rule is there. Listen, we'll take a break. When we come back, just a final segment with our guest, and I want to talk about the number of petition signatures you ended up getting, what we think will play out today at the commission meeting, and then maybe where we go moving forward. And if there are no regs, what maybe our guest thinks will be next on the roads. I'm trying to imagine what kind of vehicle will be next. We'll be back with that and more of your calls. Final segment right after this.